advocates, businesses, trade associations, and religious groups that have joined us in calling for Puerto Rico's inclusion in SNAP. I especially want to thank our lead in the House, Congresswoman Jennifer Gonzalez Colon, Lillian Rodriguez Lopez with the Coalition for Food Security Puerto Rico, who first briefed me on this issue when we were at Somos, and we have been focused on this ever since. Frankie Miranda, our president and CEO of the Hispanic Federation, who has been tireless in this advocacy. Jo Laborde, CEO of the Banco de Alimentos de Puerto Rico. There we go. I want to thank Josh Protus, who is our Vice President of Public Policy at Maison, a Jewish Response to Hunger, who's been really helpful in not only this fight for Puerto Rico, but also our fight for our service members. I want to thank Irma Maina, who is the Director of Legislation, Policy, and Advocacy at the National Hispanic Caucus of State Legislators, who has been focused on this and coming to Washington again and again. Luis Davila, our Executive Director of the Puerto Rico Federation Affairs Administrator for the Office of the Governor of Puerto Rico, who is an invaluable ally, as well as the American Federation of Teachers, Food Research and Action Center, Share Our Strength, PFLAG, Unidos US, and Bread for the World. All of these organizations and all of these leaders have been tirelessly fighting for this fairness and this necessity so that families in Puerto Rico can actually have the food security they need. Thank you for being here and sustaining this drumbeat. Our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico are American citizens who deserve every benefit and every right of every other American citizen. Congress should never have revoked Puerto Rico's eligibility for SNAP. It was unfair and unjust in 1981, and it's unfair and unjust today. 40% of Puerto Rican households were food insecure in the early months of the pandemic compared to nearly 15% of all U.S. households. That was before Hurricane Fiona damaged crops and the roads used to distribute food. So it's clear that the Nutrition Assistance Program is insufficient to meet the needs of hungry Puerto Ricans. Our Puerto Rico Nutrition Assistance Fairness Act would start the transition so that residents have nutritional assistance they need. It would correct the injustice done by Congress more than 40 years ago. It's clear that this legislation has broad-based, multi-sectoral support, and hungry Puerto Ricans don't have time to waste. America is the richest country in the world. We cannot allow our own people to go hungry just because of where they live. And you must understand that the typical recipient of a SNAP benefit are children, seniors, veterans, people with disabilities, active duty service members. These Americans deserve food security. I want to thank again for everyone here for their tireless advocacy, and I want to continue to work together to give Puerto Rico residents the fairness they deserve. I now would like to invite, is the congressman here? Not yet? No. I'd like to invite up Lillian Rodriguez Lopez, our Coalition for Food Security for Puerto Rico.
Thank you so much, Senator Gillibrand. I want to acknowledge that you have been a tireless advocate on this topic, not just because we met 6 months ago, but you've always championed food security and fighting hunger for our communities. So thank you so much. And of course, the resident commissioner, Congresswoman Jennifer Gonzalez Colon, who also has been a champion and are the architects of two really important pieces of legislation, the Puerto Rico Nutrition Assistance Fairness Act, as well as the Closing the Meal Gap Act, two really important pieces of legislation that help us solve this problem. The Coalition for Food Security Puerto Rico was actually created almost 5 years ago, and we've been focused on two pillars. One is to really advance the conversation in Puerto Rico on how we effectively move the needle on food insecurity, fight hunger, and bring nutrition equity to the island. And of course, Puerto Rico's transition, Puerto Rico's inclusion in SNAP. The reason why we're here today is we have developed a joint statement, and as Senator Gillibrand mentioned, we have broad-based support for this initiative. We have hunger advocacy groups, we have think tanks, we have businesses, we have trade associations, we have faith-based and agricultural groups who are all lending their voice on behalf of thousands of individuals who want to emphatically communicate their support for Puerto Rico's participation in SNAP. Puerto Rico's transition into SNAP has been discussed for decades. In July 2022, the USDA issued a formal report and states that Puerto Rico should be included in SNAP and can be included in SNAP. So I am here with my fellow colleagues and with the senator to say it's 2023, we're deliberating the Farm Bill. Puerto Rican citizens, U.S. citizens, continue to be harmed by our exclusion. So we're telling Congress, act now, be fair, and bring Puerto Rico into SNAP. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Lillian. Our next speaker is Frankie Miranda, our president and CEO of the Hispanic Federation.
Thank you so much, Senator. I'm going to be brief. The work that the Hispanic Federation and all of these organizations have been doing for the last 5 years is about fairness and equity. And especially after the pandemic recovery, we need to elevate all communities and all American citizens equally. We cannot leave American citizens that happen to live in the island of Puerto Rico completely vulnerable, the most vulnerable citizens that we can find, subject to this discrimination. It is about equity. It is about fairness. It is about the humane treatment of American citizens. And for us, we don't leave American citizens behind. We need to fight for this. This is an opportunity, a unique opportunity, and the moment to act is now. Thank you so much for the leadership of the senator and 200 more organizations that are working together. This is beyond Puerto Ricans. This is beyond Latino communities. We have a coalition that is basically advocating for human beings that happen to live in the island of Puerto Rico. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Our next speaker is Mary Jo Laborde, the CEO of the Banco de Alimentos de Puerto Rico.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Lillian, for all your work. And you said you pronounced it very well. Thank you. Hi, I'm Mary Jo. I'm also going to be very brief. My name is Mary Jo Laborde. I'm the CEO of the Puerto Rico Food Bank. We are part of Feeding America, the national organization fighting hunger for all Americans living in the U.S. and its territories. And they're also a signatory. And we've talked about numbers. Puerto Rico has 40% food insecurity. I work with the people who do SNAP. So I'm going to tell you a story. Puerto Ricans have poverty rate in Puerto Rico is 40%. That sounds high. Well, that's also twice as high as the highest state in the U.S., which is Mississippi. That's how bad this is. Puerto Ricans also who live in U.S. citizens who live in Puerto Rico also do not, beyond not being able to have the access to SNAP and its benefits, they also do not have access to some of the services Feeding America provides to its citizens that do SNAP simply because of the operational restrictions. Things like SNAP outreach, SNAP education, which affects mostly our senior citizens who do not have the digital access that younger generations have. So beyond the Food and Nutrition Act is access to services that they cannot have today. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I was in a town in Vega Baja. If any of you have been in Puerto Rico, you know where that is. Visiting one of our fellow organizations who work with the elderly. This is the story I hear every day. Senior citizens who have to give up personal assistance, personal care items, because their food nutritional support is not enough. So that's not acceptable, not here and not anywhere. We have seen at the food bank over a 40% increase in the emergency food distribution versus what we forecasted just in the last semester. And that is, if those numbers cannot convince us that we need to be part of the SNAP program, I don't know what else will. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Our next speaker is Josh Protus, the Vice President of Public Policy at Maison.
Thank you so much. And many thanks to Senator Gillibrand and Resident Commissioner Gonzalez for their leadership on this important issue that has been ignored for far too long. For nearly 40 years, Maison has been fighting to end hunger among people of all faiths and backgrounds in the United States and Israel. In Deuteronomy, we're commanded, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue. Justice is repeated. It's not accidentally. And the issue we're talking about today is one of justice. And for far too long, Puerto Rico, because of U.S. policies of territorial exceptionalism, has been treated unjustly. This is a moral issue. We heard about the rate of poverty, the rate of food insecurity in Puerto Rico. It's unacceptable that we let our brothers and sisters who are American citizens be treated differently. The transition from NAP to SNAP needs to happen. The Farm Bill is the opportunity now. We can't wait for that to continue to be pushed off into the future. The people of Puerto Rico don't have the luxury of waiting another 5-year cycle for the Farm Bill. We know the incredible challenges with natural disasters and economic downturns, and we also know that the people of Puerto Rico are incredibly resilient. But they shouldn't have to be so resilient that they deal with exceptionally high rates of poverty and food insecurity. I just want to note Mazon's grantee partners in Puerto Rico who are doing terrific work and are helping along with this advocacy effort: Espacios Abiertos, the Center for New Economy, and the Youth Development Institute. Really appreciate their work, and we're calling on Congress to take action now, and want to especially thank Lilian Rodriguez Lopez for her leadership in getting us over the finish line, NAP to SNAP. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Irma Maina, the Director of Legislation, Policy, and Advocacy at the National Hispanic Caucus of State Legislators. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, and I'm honored to follow all these wonderful women and Josh. And Frankie too. That I have admired for so long. I am here, although I am Puerto Rican, I am here to speak on behalf of elected officials who are Hispanic in 43 states and Puerto Rico who have adopted a resolution to call for SNAP for Puerto Rico. These are people who are Hispanic of all ethnicities: Cuban, Mexican, Salvadoran, Peruvian, Puerto Rican. They see it as an important issue for themselves, for their states. The resolution was sponsored by members from California, from Texas, from all over the United States. To give you an idea of how seriously they take this, more people would be eligible for SNAP in Puerto Rico than are eligible for DACA right now. And you all know how seriously we take DACA. So it's more people who would be affected, more people than the entire population of the District of Columbia. This is how many people we are leaving behind. And when people ask that Puerto Rico reform its finances, that Puerto Rico do better, that Puerto Rico, or say that Puerto Rico is irresponsible, what Puerto Rico is doing is trying to help its own people. And Congress, which is the one that sets the rules in Puerto Rico, needs to set the rules for Puerto Rico to be able to play fairly and compete fairly. So thank you so much, Senator, for your leadership on this. Our members, thank you. I want to recognize one of our members who is here, Senator William Villafañe from Puerto Rico. We spent the weekend together in a meeting that we had with dozens of other legislators in Puerto Rico, but legislators from all over the United States. And I speak here on their behalf, and trust me, they are speaking with one voice on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our not last speaker, but Luis Davila, our Executive Director of the Puerto Rican Federal Affairs Administration, is our next speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning, everyone. I'm honored to stand here today, joining forces with so many allies from the public, private, nonprofit sector, united in one goal: to demand that Congress take action and address the unequal treatment of the 3.2 million American citizens living in Puerto Rico. For too long, more than 40 years, Puerto Ricans have been denied access to one of the most critical food assistance programs in the nation, SNAP. Unlike the current cap block grant, SNAP brings a new element to the table: the flexibility needed to manage funds in cases of high inflation and high demand. You think your eggs and meat here in the United States are expensive? Try hosting a brunch or a barbecue back home. Retail prices for food products in Puerto Rico are 21% higher than what they are on the mainland. And going back to the flexibility component, SNAP also provides flexibility during times of emergency and natural disasters, which, as you know, we face a lot in Puerto Rico by being an island in the Caribbean. When it comes to the actual monetary benefit that people receive, the difference is staggering. It is simply unacceptable that our fellow Americans in Puerto Rico are being denied the same basic necessities that are really readily available to our brothers and sisters on the mainland. Transitioning Puerto Rico to SNAP is not only a matter of justice and basic human dignity, but also of economic vitality for our island. By providing access to SNAP, we can lift our people out of poverty, we can create jobs, we can stimulate economic growth, investment, both in Puerto Rico and on the mainland. To put it all into perspective, if families in Puerto Rico were allowed to have access to the same adequate nutrition assistance, they could better invest in their futures and contribute to the broader economy of our nation. And why do we say this? Well, because Puerto Rico imports over $6.5 billion in agricultural products and food commodities every year from the mainland, a value that is only surpassed by Canada and Mexico. States like Arkansas, Georgia, Iowa, Kansas, Texas, Florida, whose agricultural exports are critical to their economies, would benefit significantly from this change. Today, we stand before you organized and united to demand that Congress include provisions in this year's Farm Bill to finally transition Puerto Rico into the SNAP program. And believe me when I tell you, we've never been as close as we are today. We've never been more ready. We've never been more prepared. We've never been more willing to make this change for our people, to bring the equality that they deserve. The time is now. It's not next year. It's not 5 years from now when the Farm Bill is up for discussion again. God forbid, it's not when the next hurricane hits Puerto Rico. The time is now for Congress to act, to right this wrong, to address the unjustified exclusion from Puerto Rico to the SNAP program, and to make this a reality for all Puerto Ricans. So with that, I thank Senator Gillibrand, Congresswoman Jennifer Gonzalez Colon, the Coalition for Food Security, the Hispanic Federation, and the more than 200 allies that have co-signed this joint statement that we present to you today. Together, we can ensure that the people of Puerto Rico are given the resources they need to thrive, to be treated as the actual American citizens that we are, and together we can transform and revamp our most important social program. And by doing so, ladies and gentlemen, we will be helping build a better future for America. That's what it's all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Our last speaker is Congresswoman Jennifer Gonzalez Colon.
Thank you, Senator. I'm really glad to be here today, again, doing a joint effort to pass this amendment to the converting NAP to SNAP in the Farm Bill. I think this is the moment. I agree with the government of Puerto Rico in that sense, but I want to say thank you to more than 200 organizations that today made a joint statement and actually published a website which is called PuertoRicoSnap.com. And I think it's important for people to know what are the difference between NAP and SNAP. In the case of Puerto Rico, I want to say thank you again to Senator Gillibrand for actually introducing in the Senate the counterpart of our bill in the House, H.R. 253, and the Senate bill is 949. There's bipartisan support for this conversion. You already know, and we heard a few minutes ago, the differences between this program and the regular program. When there's a natural disaster coming up to the island, we need to come to Congress and ask for the disaster provision of SNAP. And when you are in an emergency, you can't wait for the House and the Senate to get a bill done and then the signature of the president. That's a provision that all states got, and even some territories. So this is not just a decision of Congress by limiting the opportunities for a territory, because you got 2 territories already that actually receive this program. I think 1.4 million American citizens that live on the island of Puerto Rico deserve the same nutritional benefits that their counterparts in the nation. And when you are asking about nutritional assistance, it's not just a limited funding like we do have on the island. that most of the time, if a person have less funds to actually acquire some food, they're gonna go into high sugar, high carbs, and that's one of the reasons we may have a higher percentage of obesity, a higher percentage of heart diseases, and many other conditions that affect Hispanics in the island of Puerto Rico. So in this sense, proper nutrition is linked to overall health, and we're talking about doing that for Puerto Rico. We got a Senate bill, we got a House bill, and I will say that all stakeholders on the island agree and are supporting on this, and we're not just talking about civilians or even the beneficiaries, but also the industry as well, because this is a time to be equal and receive proper nutrition on the island. So thank you again, Senator Gillibrand. Thank you for the 200 organizations that actually came from the island and are supporting this important bill.
Well said. Thank you. We're happy to take any on-topic questions from the press for any speaker.
Can you explain where the process is right now in the Senate and in the House?
Yeah. So right now in the Senate, we are working on our farm bill, and we are working on a provision for food security that includes the transition from NAP to SNAP for Puerto Ricans. This is a very hard-fought negotiation. We just had a hearing on food security, which I attended and asked the questions for the record and for the Republican colleagues present about why this is so important. And so we are making our case. We are making sure that this can stay bipartisan and make sure we have a provision in both the House bill and the Senate bill. And you can give an update on the House side.
In the House side, it was presented to the committee members early this week, so they're working on the farm bill as we speak. We've been meeting with members of the committee in a bipartisan way. Many of them, I will say 90% of them, are in shock that, why Puerto Rico is not included. Many of them even thought that we already got SNAP. So explaining that to many of the members, it's been good in sense that they understand the provisions of the program, and we need to have bipartisan support to that end. And I believe, like the senator, that the only vehicle to make this happen is actually the farm bill.
Senator, what about the report that you asked for in the hearing to the Agricultural Department? Did they submit that information?
Not yet. We asked during the hearing for a full report and analysis of data, and they still have yet to give that to us. Any on topics? Okay. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
again.
good that you're leading this.